Hello and welcome to Kibo and the Purple Dragon, read by Mrs. Burke. Kibo liked three things more than anything else in the world: feeding lettuce leaves to his tortoise, zooming down the slide in the park, and making funny faces in front of the mirror in his bedroom. One morning, Kibo invented a new funny face, making his ears stick out and touching the tip of his nose with his tongue. As soon as he finished his breakfast, he ran upstairs and sat smiling to himself in front of the mirror. But as he was stretching his tongue and pulling out his ears, something dreadful happened. A scaly purple dragon climbed in through his open window, and in the twinkling of an eye, it reared up behind Kibo like a shadow. Kibo was so frightened he started to run. He ran all the way to the huge tree in the square, which everyone said was home to an elf, past an old abandoned house that made strange, spooky noises, and around the fountain with 7 spouts and the lemon-flavoured water. But when he returned home, he looked at himself in the mirror. The dragon was still there, right behind him. It was a little bigger and a little purpler than the last time. "What am I going to do?" said Kibo. He thought and thought until suddenly he had a great idea. "I'll go all the way around the world. There's no way the purple dragon can follow me." So he grabbed his backpack, put on his stripy t-shirt, and without daring to look back, ran out of his house, ready to see the world. Kibo climbed more than 1,600 steps to the top of the Eiffel Tower, walked the entire length of the Great Wall of China, and entered the labyrinths of an Egyptian pyramid. Then he walked across the whole African savannah, hiked for 3 days to reach Machu Picchu, and rode in the elevator, Americans call that a lift, and rode in the elevator to the top of the Empire State Building. Way up there, seeing how the spire of the top of the skyscraper was tickling the belly of a passing evening cloud, he decided it was time to go back home. But when he got home and looked at himself in the mirror, the purple dragon was still there, right behind him. It was a little bigger and a little purpler than the last time he'd seen it. "How am I going to get rid of this monster?" Kibo asked himself. He thought and thought about it until he found an answer. "Of course, that's it. However purple it is, no dragon can follow me all the way to Mars." In his glittering silver spacesuit and spaceship, Kibo reached Mars, the red planet. He walked past craters, lava fields, and volcanoes. He met a Martian with 1 eye and 4 feet who told awful jokes. "How can you tell which end of a worm is which? Tickle it in the middle and see which end laughs." Travelling at the speed of light, Kibo continued on his interplanetary voyage. His ship nearly burned up when he passed Venus. With its thick layer of clouds, it was the hottest of all the planets, and the brightest. He even looked at it out of his bedroom window so many times. "It's the evening star," his mum would say, and Kibo would close his eyes as tightly as he could and make a wish. "I want the dragon to disappear," was what he wished this time. And at the speed of light, he returned home. Back in his bedroom, Kibo walked towards his mirror with his head hanging down. As he raised his eyes, there was the dragon, a little bigger and a little purpler than the last time. "What am I going to do now?" he asked himself. He thought and thought until steam started to come out of his ears, and then suddenly yelled, "I've got it! I'll go to the bottom of the sea." Wearing his diver's suit, Kibo swam down until he reached a field of waving seagrass. There he saw snails, starfish, sea urchins, and crabs. He could hardly believe his eyes when he met Dugong, a huge merman with a round, friendly face who invited him to a delicious seaweed banquet. After eating roast seaweed, boiled seaweed, and fried seaweed, Kibo felt that it was time to go home. Soaked to the skin and standing in front of the mirror in his bedroom, once again he saw that the dragon was still behind him, a little bigger and a little purpler than the last time. Oh, is there any way to get rid of him? He asked himself, and racking his brain for hours and hours, a huge smile suddenly spread over his face. Of course! Why didn't I think of it before? The best way to get rid of a monster is to stop thinking about it. So Kibo picked up a book, Fairy Tales, the biggest one he could find on the shelf, and started reading it. Suddenly he was immersed in a world of elves, magicians, knights and witches riding on broomsticks. He met Maggie the fairy, who instead of turning frogs into princes, turned them into fried eggs. He met Princess Bonnie, who was completely fed up with her knight in shining armour. But like every other book, this one had a happy ending. When he finished the book, Kibo once again felt the dragon's presence. And when he looked in the mirror, there it was, bigger and purpler than ever. Tired of trying to run away, Kibo decided it was time to face up to the dragon. He took a deep, deep breath, clenched his teeth together, went as red as a tomato, and he turned his head around. That was when the miracle happened. When Kibo looked into the dragon's eyes, face to face, it shot out of the window, dragging a huge suitcase behind it. He suddenly felt as light as a feather and jumped with joy. And you know what they say? That inside of his suitcase the dragon had all of Kibo's fears. When you see a dragon, one thing is quite clear. If you look them in the eye, they'll run away with fear. In his heart, Kibo could do the 3 things he liked best in the world. Feed lettuce leaves to his tortoise, zoom head first down the slide, and make funny faces in the front of the mirror in his bedroom. The end.